Hey guys, this is Russ and Ryan from AMS. We're down here in Stevensville, Maryland. We had a chance to sit down with all the folks at PRS, including Paul himself, to talk about their upcoming 40th anniversary, new models, current models, and so much more. Hope you guys enjoy.
Okay, so
wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
You know where we're headed? Is that what you just said to him? Okay, he has no idea where he's headed. He's going to go places that are uncharted even for him.
Do you know what he tells me?
What? What does he tell you?
He goes, the way I start these off is it's like a cannonball into a pool. I just don't know exactly what's going to happen. I just kind of run and jump and just hope for the best.
That's right.
I'm often nude when that happens, so just look at that. All right, so.
I asked you not to do that.
See that cliff? That's
so
where
which
we're
camera's
going.
on me? Is it not this one?
This is your
Okay,
title.
good. I asked him not to do that, and within the first 3 sentences, he did it. So, welcome to the video.
Yeah, we're in the deep end now.
Nope.
So, I think arguably we could say that if it were not for the Custom 24, there's a good chance that PRS wouldn't be where it is today, right?
Yeah.
The fair
All right, so wait a minute. Let me comment about that. The Custom 24 was calculated because people said they needed to be able to play 2 more frets higher, otherwise they couldn't play. And I didn't buy it. I knew that I'd seen so many guitar players that never went up there. They would stretch the last note. They wouldn't play it. And to me, it was trying to put it in a place where if you played a Strat or you played a Les Paul, and you were looking for something a little more modern, that would be the guitar that it was going to be. So in my mind, had we done it the other way, where we started with the McCarty, I think we would have been okay. But the way you put it is fair, because that's the way history was written. That's the way it was done. So it's completely fair. But to me, at the time, little bit smaller side-to-side telly necks were a big deal, so that the neck was a little teeny bit smaller. That it had 24 frets, and that the bass pickup was a teeny bit farther away from the 22nd fret was fine with me. It was all, and the rotary switch to get all the sounds. It was all calculated, and it worked, but what's interesting is that the main artist that plays Custom 24s is Orianthi. And she grew up on it. So she learned how to play the way the old players learned how to play Strats and Les Pauls and converted over. For her, she started on a Custom 24, so she's never going to leave it, right? It'd be like learn how to drive with a paddle shifter, and somebody gives you something down here, and you don't even know what they're talking about, you know.
But into that regard, I mean, that is ground zero for her. And in some ways, it is ground zero for what you have established. Obviously, you had designed other guitars well before the Custom 24 that didn't incorporate many of the things that we're looking at now. Right. But my main curiosity is when I look at, this is a 34-year-old guitar, that's a 12-year-old guitar, that's a brand new guitar. They're all Custom 24s. They all share lineage, yet, as is often the case with your designs, you're a restless pursuit of making it better without alienating what made it great in the first place. What do you jettison and what do you move forward? You know, what do you keep from the beginning and what do you change?
We're talking roughly about 20 years apart from each one of these guitars, as we said.
So these new pickups are a little more open, a little more dynamic than what was on that guitar.
For sure.
Although, you know, I've unwound old PAFs, and the number of turns is not that dissimilar. I mean, it was a damn good guess, because at the time I didn't have $5,000 I could waste to unwind a PAF and count the turns, right? If you strum that guitar, let's just do it.
Do it.
Okay, so there's a, this is more, a little higher vowel note.
The voice is different, for sure.
Yeah, right. But I know that that's going to make that sound from the way we made the bridge, the way we made the guitar, what kind of nuts on it, the weight on the tuning pegs, all that stuff. And so for me, I'm looking for more of a straight vocal sound, instead of or I mean, everybody knows is really bad. And a high-end ice pick is no good.
Are you likening it more to a chest voice or something from the diaphragm, like something?
I don't know about that. I just know about the vowel sound of the guitar. I never thought of it that way. I do know that when the singer in our band plays, she's got a timbre. Her voice is extraordinary. And I do notice timbre when I plug into an amp and play with gain. It has a timbre that's just stunning to me. But really, I'm trying to move the whole thing up into dead vocal range. So,
So can we talk about some of like where your head was at with some of these component changes over the years
why
even
not?
too? So like even the tuners, we went from this, I believe these are Phase II tuners. Do you remember
These are the wing collar. Yeah, these original design to what you did in '85, I assume. Yeah.
How do we go from wing collar to Phase II to?
We had so many people send their guitars back with the string wrapped the wrong direction on the wing collars that we realized that even though they were, once you understood how they worked and they were so simple to operate, that maybe this thing with it, you could use a dime or a penny to lock down would be even simpler.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished, right? So it was more of an effort to just make it really simple.
Okay. Now his features a single action truss rod.
Yeah.
Mine's a double action truss rod.
So is this one double action.
So is that double action. So when did that evolution kind of happen roughly?
Back.
And what prompted it?
Well, if you have a neck that's bowed backwards, a single action rod won't help it. A single action rod will only if it's bowed forwards. It tightens it compresses the wood on the back of the neck and brings it back. It's almost like, literally putting a clamp here on the backside and squeezing the wood a little bit, and it brings it back. So for me, that whole thing having to do with the double action rod was so that it worked in both directions. Ted McCarty once told me, he says, I never made a good guitar in the spring or the fall. And what he meant was that the humidity in Michigan was changing so fast that he couldn't control the neck bow in those times. So for me, it was about being able to use the guitar no matter what environment it was in. What's magic is if you build a guitar at 72 degrees, 45% humidity, and dry everything out in ovens ahead of time, it'll make it in a really humid day in Florida, and it'll make it in a really dry day in Arizona.
Well, I can attest to that because I'm the only owner of this guitar. I've had this since 1990. I got it out of high school, and I don't think I've touched the truss rod maybe 2 times, and that's a long time. And it's a relatively thin neck, but I think it's a testament to the fact that everything before wire 1 went in, the wood was given thought to. It was like, we're not going to put all that great stuff on a bad platform. And to me, that's a testament. This guitar plays as well, if not better, than it did when I got it. It's the same frets. It's the same hardware, same pickups. I haven't had to do anything to this guitar.
All right, so that would be yay. That's good.
Yeah.
But not good enough.
No, it's good enough.
Is it?
No, of course it is, because you love it.
I do.
Well, then I'm not touching it.
Well, you signed it for me.
Okay, well, that's not why you love
It says
it.
to jerk face. Love all.
So in my world, if you love it, we've done our job, and I need to shut up. But by the way, I don't care if people modify guitars as long as it does its job. What I don't like is a guitar going under the bed and then, well, it looks nice, but I don't use it. That's not okay with me. This thing's got dings in it, and that's good.
Yeah, and this has definitely been loved. But that's the point.
If you had somebody else sign it, it would be way better.
No, I did not. But
That's
you know what
good.
else, too, is one of the things that I think a lot of people mistake when they look at a PRS as functional art, as beautiful as it is, how solid they are. Some guitars are pretty, and if you kind of hit them, they don't hit back. And this, again, is better than when I got it. And I've never had to repair it. And that's through a lot of mistakes. But point being, it's a really
Not
well-made
mistakes when
tool.
we made it. We were trying to make it repairman friendly.
He's referring.
Yeah, not your mistakes.
I hope not.
If there were mistakes, I would have sought to modify it in some way. And that was the reason of bringing this guitar today, because I am guilty of modifying all of my guitars, and I've never changed a screw on this. So that's what I'm getting at. But again, how do we arrive at this, what is this, a 2012?
This is
so
a 2012.
22 years later. And then how do we arrive at this in 2024? They're all custom 24s. They all retain the essence of what made it good. What's the biggest difference? Is it the pickups?
Right now, this is 5909s, and in the 2012, you have
HFS and vintage bass.
All right, so an HFS has a ceramic magnet in it, like a Duncan Custom. Actually, HFS pickups sound really good.
That's why it's still there.
Okay, well, it was meant to drive a Marshall 50 into the gain you couldn't get out of it. That's what it was invented for.
Well, yeah, the reading
at
on
the
it's
time,
pretty high.
Yeah, but that's a resistance reading. So in pickups, how many turns and how powerful the magnet is, that's power. So you can have less turns and a really powerful magnet. It's pretty loud. You can have a lot of turns and a weak magnet, and it's not very loud. So it's both. But in those days, people weren't using boost pedals. This whole idea of having fuzz boxes and boost pedals on the floor, that didn't exist. You were plugging into a Marshall 50 or a Fender Deluxe and diming it, and if the pickup didn't drive it, you were dead in the water. And that pickup
PV
was
Bandit.
What PV?
PV Bandit.
Okay, we're gonna forget you said that.
It's not like this is a safe space,
They actually made. PV made it like a vintage basement amp. What was those things called?
The Windsor?
No.
Oh, like an old one, like not a Mace.
Yeah.
There was the Butcher.
No.
That was more like a Marshall.
Way before that, they made this thing that looked like a Fender.
It was a Classic 50.
Yeah.
It's a Delta.
Yeah, but there was the Classic 50
Way
and the
even
Classic
earlier, there
30
was
and
a
the Classic 20.
4-input. It looked like an original basement, and they sounded great.
They were great. They were really well. They just got really hot. The way that the controls were set up, like the tubes were like right against the baffle board, and it would you'd be in trouble.
It sounded good when I plugged into it.
Well,
look, the very first time I went to Sam Ash Music in New York, they plugged it into a PV amp, and all the tones that I had designed all came out of the amp. I went, good amp, Things have changed a lot since then. Now, the amount of time that people come spend walking up to my amp going, where's your pedal? And I'm plugged straight in, and they're like, no, that didn't happen. That's not possible. And for me, that's old school. That's Allman Brothers. That's,
Angus Young.
Yeah. Listen, the story is that when Hendrix went and played with Cream, he plugged into the other bass rig, dimed it, and the rest is history.
So then, if I may, we talk about the sonic personality of a guitar, and we know what an S-style guitar sounds or an LP-style guitar. What is, in your mind, and you designed it, you said the tones you were looking for, what is the sound of a Custom 24 that you would...
I was in Japan.
Okay.
It's the first time I was there, and they asked me that question, what's the sound of a PRS? And I'd never been asked before. And I sat there for at least a minute without an answer. And because they were Japanese journalists, they just sat there and waited.
Patiently.
An American would have filled in the space. Well, let me ask it a different way. They would have said something. Not in Japan. They just sat there and waited. And man, every cog I had was really trying to find an answer, right? And I finally said, clear and powerful. Which I thought was, that's kind of the sound of that guitar. You plug that into an amp, and it's clear and powerful. That was the idea. That's got a sweet switch on it, which was, I'm plugged into an amp that's too bright, save your butt switch.
Right.
And they worked.
For sure.
Why the departure of the sweet switch?
Because we had made the pickups different and it wasn't necessary anymore. Because the original thing, the sweet switch was designed, had magnetic pole pieces on one side and screws on the other. It was meant to be dead in between a Fender and a Gibson pickup. And the original one, it needed the sweet switch when you were plugged into a big rig.
Okay.
So let me ask you this though. So we talked about some of these differences, the pickups, we've talked about the machine heads. There's a lot of similarities between a lot of differences. Even like his pickup selector versus my pickup selector, and I'm not too familiar with our, up and comer right here.
This is a tone control. That's the pickup selector.
No, what I'm talking about is positions 1 through 5, and his 1 through 5.
They're different.
They're very different.
But all usable.
Yeah. So where did why'd you change it at different various points to kind of tweak that?
I got a call from Henry Jeskowitz at Gibson. He said, you have to change the power out of phase tone on your rotary. I went, I don't think so. He goes, no, we have it patented from an L6S. And I went, don't do it, Henry. He says, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to make it better. If you make me change it, I'll put the tone in everybody's asking for. The one tone they want me to get rid of is the power out of phase tone. He go, I don't know, my people are telling me that it's got to go. And I was like, yeah, I'm telling you, I'm going to make it better. I'm warning you. He goes, I said, you want me to change it? He said, yeah, change it. I said, all right, fine. Click. Went in the back and put the 2 outside coils in the rotary instead of the 2 pickups in series out of phase, which for me was a Brian May tone. You know,
That's exactly what I was looking at.
And does yours have the outside 2 coils, or does it got the power out of phase tone?
I don't remember.
You'd know, because one of them's really loud. Whoa!
Yeah, it has that one.
Okay, good. That's power out of phase tone. So,
Okay.
but he called me and said, I got a patent on this. You got to change it. And I was like, it's not the same thing. He goes, well, my people are telling me. And that was the end of that. I just changed it. I laughed all the way back to the rotary switch diagram.
No, I don't think that's mine though. I think mine when I'm in 2 and 4, I think it's like really humbucker and a single coil.
Like that. But we changed it again because the artists and the customers were telling us they wanted different things from it. It was okay.
Yeah,
look, in the end, I'm using the treble pickup and the bass pickup and switching back and forth. If you watch Steve Morse in the Dregs, he was playing the treble pickup down here and he would switch as he went to the G string and go up high and then he would switch back. He was switching.
You know what he said it was? He said it was like driving a car and he'd switch his gears.
Because your gears, yeah.
And that's exactly what he said.
I used to watch him do it, and he would literally stop picking at the same speed and switch it as he was going up here. I thought it was brilliant.
Yep.
He is brilliant, for sure. He's on another level.
Yeah.
For me, though, I kind of think of some guitars are kind of like a stomp box. They do one thing and they do one thing well. You step on it for one thing. And this is almost more like a multi-effects. If I need to get a real loud, fat, I want to clean up immediately and have almost a semi-acoustic, it's one click away.
You can do that.
So, but that's the beauty of it. But again, that's why it's so hard to pinpoint what is a PRS sound. There are so many.
Well, it's clear and powerful. That was the idea.
Whether this stays on or not, but we played with Morse. We did a jam. We did because we've ended as lovers with him. We talked about that last time when you visited. But it's with the Steve Morse behind it, doing things that were just blowing our minds. Exactly. Yeah.
We played it last night.
Did you?
Great song.
You know what else we've been playing? Yeah.
Shut back, yeah. He's playing more back.
Oh, is that the pump? No.
No.
Is it?
It's the pump, and that's like, you're here with Luca there where they do that too?
Yeah, love that song.
So we've been playing those 2 Jeff Beck tunes since we ended as lovers in the pump to honor him because we lost him this year. And we've been playing...
Brian Adams.
Bum. Yeah.
Tina Turner.
Well,
Oh, pardon me, Tina Turner.
Okay, wait a minute. It's right. It's Brian Adams and Tina Turner going at it on stage, 2 rock stars screaming at each other. And it was out of bounds good. And we've been playing that ever since she passed.
It's a great riff.
it's a great song.
No, Mia just tears it to shreds. So.
That must be awesome to be just back there and watching it happen.
And when B.B. King died, we learned The Thrill Is Gone. You know, we've been learning these tunes as our heroes have been going.
Tributes.
The thing about The Thrill Is Gone, which is really cool,
The same film.
Just over different chord voices.
it works over all the chords. And by the way, the joke about the tune, it's a powerful tune. Because at the end she goes, "You'll be sorry someday," a cappella, and the band kicks in and stuff. Wasn't he married a lot?
I think he had a few kids,
Yeah, right. The Thrill Is Gone. I just laugh.
We'll cut that.
Why? I think it's great. I think these people sang what they felt.
For sure.
By the way, If You Want Me to Stay and The Thrill Is Gone were both horn tunes, but they turned the horns way, way down. If you want me to stay, it's a horn tune, but they left the bass and the vocal up because that was the coolest part. It's the same thing. The original Thrill is Gone. It's full of horns.
And strings. There's that string pad.
Are there really?
Yeah, there's some there. But I mean, it's the minimalist of it. I mean, it's B.B. King. You know, and you're right. He could get away with that same fill regardless of whatever the chord change
He's a PRS artist, too. You might not know that.
Who's that?
B.B. King.
I did not know that. That
So
went well.
bring-
No, he wasn't.
I'm just joking.
Gosh, that was so wrong.
Russ
Bringing
isn't
us
good at
back
those
full
things,
circle at Custom 24, though, with the new one. Can you walk us through some of the changes with the newest iteration of the Custom 24?
Well, we've changed some of the wiring down here, but these new pickups are the McCarty 3s without covers. They're called DMOs, which means dynamic, musical, and open. There's a lot of dynamics. It's very musical, very, very open. So to me, there's something, the first time we took one of these McCarty 3s and took the covers off, we were like, whoa, 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 whoa. It sounded like, of all weird things, the guitar player that Reed recorded Here We Go Again,
John Sykes?
John Sykes, was playing a early 70s Black Les Paul, right? And it was PAFs without covers, basically. And it's this huge, open, big sound. Same thing Jim McCarty used to play in the Rockets, you know? And when we took it off, we heard that sound. We were like, wow, wow. So we tweaked it up a little bit. But it's really dynamic. It's really musical, really open sound. I didn't really understand. Look, there are certain tones in history that just are magical. If you listen to Robbie Blunt, Blunt playing
With
Big
Robert
Log.
Plant, yeah.
Oh my God, the sound of that Strat is just. And I went and we made a guitar that sounded like it and plugged into the same CE1 and the same Pro Reverb. It sounded just like it. I was like, wow! And what a guitar player.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you record a tune with Robert Plant after Jimmy Page just got done with
Big
it?
shoes to fill.
Yeah, we did a beautiful job. Yeah. Absolutely
Well,
beautiful
you plug a
job.
Strat into a really clean amp and you go
Nowhere
nowhere.
it
near
had a
Page
little teeny bit on it. It wasn't,
but
wasn't
it's
dead
phrasing
clean.
and it's
ridiculous.
impeccable.
It's
Yeah.
impeccable.
It really is. And,
So
go
those
ahead.
are tones in history. Listen to John Mayer and Gravity. There's something beautiful about the tone.
Yeah.
You listen to Carlos when he did the tune Smooth. When I was in Japan walking down the street when Smooth was a hit, it was coming out of every store in Tokyo. It was the sound of Tokyo. I'm sorry. Good job, Carlos. I mean, it was this. I mean, that melody was the sound of was that. There was a time when Jaco was so big that they literally had his picture on a 8-story building. He was 8 stories high, 9 stories high. I mean, they love great musicians in Japan, and Carlos was the sound of Tokyo. I love it.
It was an international. I mean, almost wherever you went, you heard that song.
So Carlos comes here right after he got those 8 Grammys, and he walks into my office and he slams the door. He says, "I swear I haven't changed," which I thought was beautiful. In other words, I got this big acknowledgement, but I'm still the same person I was. And he went around to every single person at every bench in the factory and thanked him.
Wow. Yeah.
Of all weird things, when Neil Sean was here, he did the same thing. Same band. Now it was early Santana. We got a chance to go on the road with Michael Carabello, the conga player from the Woodstock, and he just played with us for 5 days. That was really enlightening.
Well, I want to rewind for a second what you were just saying, too, about them stopping at the benches and acknowledging the staff that's here and the quality that's put into the instrument. And that was something that we did with some of your team members earlier today, was a compilation of talking with them all about quality and what that really means. I mean, we're in 40th anniversary territory now. Is it fair to say that we're at this place where it's almost like the golden era of PRS? I mean, he's talked about...
I don't call it that.
Okay.
I call it our time.
Our time.
This is our time. This is our time. We've been building all this time for our time. Look, the guitars didn't exist when Stairway to Heaven was recorded, right?
Right.
I would love to dig Hendrix up and show him the guitar, But Derek Truck said, he said there were a lot of parties you and I weren't invited to. Paul, we were too young. And I'm almost 70 now. And still I was too young. I was 13 when Woodstock happened. My parents weren't going to let me go to that. That wasn't going to happen. Can you imagine a 13-year-old? I would have been blown my mind.
Sure. So the one question I didn't ask those team members, but I wanted to ask you is like, what's the vision for the future with PRS? I know you don't like that, but
it's fine. So the story is, and I don't know if it's true, that when Paved Paradise came out of the speakers, she said, "Oh shit, I got to play it the rest of my life." So Joni Mitchell is, when they listed the top 100 guitar players, she wasn't listed. I went nuts. I read Guitar Player, the Riot Act, because she had brought these new tunings. You try to figure out the tuning when she plays it in Woodstock. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. But she wrote these gorgeous tunes. She was not at Woodstock and wrote the quintessential tune about the event. Yeah. That's genius all by itself, right? So, you know, you hear it come out of the speakers, you go, oh no, well, I'm going to be playing that the rest of my life. That's what happened with the Cream. If you read the story, when Sunshine of Your Love came out of the speakers, they knew they had a hit. It was over. I mean, from the stories, Michael Jackson, when the first time that they heard Billie Jean come out of the speakers, they were dancing and they couldn't stop. They lost it. They knew they had something.
Now sync that up though with what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying the same thing. Here's the guitar. We got to keep making guitars. We've got to keep doing what we've become good at. This is our time. This is, you know, look now, if you were a Gibson in 1959, but it was now, I can't take one in the same color. Can you got one in a, you know, can I get in a deep red cherry Summers with a blue back and an orange fingerboard? If they wouldn't allowed us to make 1,500 of the same thing, that would have been off the table. People have gotten to the point where they want every one of these to be different, even though it's the same model, right? Yeah. And that's just the way it is. But our time is to make really good tools for musicians to play. Look, nobody thinks that a new vet can get outmaneuvered by an old vet. But everybody thinks an old guitar can outmaneuver a new guitar. I just don't buy it. Jimmy Herring was the first person to say it to me. He says, well, my PRSs will do things my vintage guitars won't do. And I thought that was a beautiful comment. It's our time. I want to keep doing the same thing. And if we make little modifications, that's just fine. There's a Dragon coming out this year.
We played.
We got it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so it's different, but it's still PRS.
Sure.
You know, so.
And that's the thing we've been wrestling with.
By the way, you can't release that part of this video that is a Dragon coming out unless it's after we release it.
Well, the Dragon and the custom launch at the same time.
So there we go. We're good. We're good.
But there you go. I mean, therein lies our initial question, though. And, you know, we can kind of quantify what the sound of a specific guitar brand might be. Whether it's Martin, or it's Fender, or it's Gibson, pick a brand. It's very difficult to narrow it down to one. And it seems like Paul is going to dodge the question every time we ask, because there really is no answer to that.
Actually, I'm starting to hear a difference now.
Are you?
Oh, God, yes. I'm starting to be able to go, that's a PRS, but it's just finally starting to happen.
And it's just dawning on you. And what is it?
Not dawning, you can start to hear it. If there was a NF53 and an old Tele, I would be able to hear the difference on the radio, but it would be subtle.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Look, there were really early videos of people comparing 65 Strats to Silver Skies.
Yes, I remember.
And I could hear it.
Yeah, so could I.
But which one do you like more?
Yep.
Well, and there's no wrong answer. I mean,
there is.
Well, to you, of course, the Strat is better. But you know, it comes down to like,
that's a wrong answer.
Oh, I meant.
If he loves it, if or she loves it,
that's your
and
whole
they
mantra.
say they hate it, that's a wrong answer. If they hate it and they say they love it, that's a wrong answer.
Right?
Right.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Can I strip that guitar?
When I showed this to you last time, you're like, I hate that guitar. And I was like, this is my baby. How could you say that?
I didn't say that.
You did. And then you tried to smash it, and I had to tackle you.
Can I ask the film crew, is lying a new thing for him?
Everyone's shaking their head.
No, because when I showed it to you, like, I would change those. I would change it. You was like,
you have my outfit on. I normally wear a suit jacket, a black T-shirt, and jeans.
He's not dumb.
And Merrill's. I'm not wearing Merrill's anymore.
These are Vans.
You stole it.
Yeah, well, there's a big difference between you and I. I'm
My hair's
stupid.
more white than yours. Maybe you should dye your hair dead white.
I probably should.
yeah.
There's more salt than pepper, and that's
Yeah,
continuing. I just found some in my eyebrows. It's messing with me, man. Anyway,
We're not
for coming.
taking an extension of that one.
no, it isn't. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. We're here to celebrate a model that has been around for 40 years. Obviously, it's proliferated in many different ways among the line, but I think that there's just few things you could argue with the fact, like you said, this is almost like a great microphone. And in that regard, it's going to amplify who's singing into it or who's playing it. Whereas some guitars can kind of mask that a little bit with their inherent sound. Mm-hmm. And that to me is what, and maybe that's clear and powerful, I don't know.
I don't know. It was an answer in Japan when we had just switched over to the HFS pickups. I wouldn't use that term now. But I'm just saying, at the time, it was the best thing I could think of with a minute and absolutely no prep whatsoever. It took me a whole minute. I'm like, how am I going to answer this question? Nobody's ever asked it before. And they weren't going to
letting you out.
say anything. An American went, well, let me rephrase that,
Well, I think there's one thing that's irrefutable.
I can tell you this.
You could
the
tell me
guitar I
that.
played last night
Yeah.
is a version of a Paul's guitar. And it was big and thick and had a nasty musical high end that I like, very rock and roll sounding to me. Mm-hmm. And then I switched it to another one of the same exact model, and it sounded more high mid-rangey and a little sweeter. And when I got done the gig last night, I'm driving home going, I'm going back to my old guitar. You can hear variances between models, and we made them both.
No doubt. I think something that we touched upon with a number of your employees, and Alex and I were talking about this, is that the one thing that you cannot refute is at a time when this came out, in 1985, let's say 85, 86, there were a lot of brands that were kind of flagging and kind of just churning out a lot of the same thing. The quality control of a PRS guitar, and a Custom 24 in particular, kicked everyone's ass. It changed the game, and that is just one of those things where you couldn't get away with making a subpar guitar as often as some of these brands were. And so quality control is a huge part of the PRS sound, more so than tone and everything. It seems like the ability to execute an excellent guitar each time out. You're not going to find a bad one in the wild.
There's a story about this. When they first started selling guitars on the internet, the first things to be sold on the internet were McCarty's. And it's because the difference between the best one and the worst one was so narrow that they could trust what they were going to get. And somebody said, I just love this guitar. I love this guitar. Do you have one in blue? And I was like, wait a minute, whoa. You just said you love that one. He says, oh no, I trust the tone and the way it plays. I just need another color. I was like, okay, that's cool. I never really thought of that. And they started the beginnings of, if you don't like it, in a couple of days you can return it thing. That had just started on the internet. And I'm in Nashville, which we're having the same event tomorrow where we thank all the artists. And they said, if we don't play our PRS, we get fired. And I was like, what are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? You shouldn't even be let into the studio with a PRS. Oh no, we don't play our PRS, we get fired. I said, why? He says, because they're tuning all the vocals. And if your guitar's not in tune with the vocals, when they tune the vocals, you're fired and they bring somebody else in to play afterwards. And the guitars are playing in better tune than the vintage stuff we have. Therefore, we're playing them because we don't want to be fired. I was like, yes. We put the nut in the right place. We put the frets in the right place. The guitar would intonate. And they're not losing their job.
Sure.
I loved it. I was like, finally somebody, because we moved the nut around, we adjusted the intonation here and here, both places. I thought that was really cool. I don't want anybody to get fired. It's not that different than Rupert Neve. I saw him interviewed once. He goes, you guys are all talking about the tone of my console. He says, I could have given a rat's about it. And they said, what are you talking about? He goes, I was trying to make sure that people at the BBC didn't get fired. Because if you lose a channel, you're fired. Mm-hmm. You lose one of the mics on the TV show, you're done. Mm-hmm. He said, I was trying to build them like, industrial, so they absolutely would never go down.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, you know something? That's really smart. He didn't want that channel going down on live TV. Wanted no part of it.
And that's to the question that Russ has been asking several of the people here. What is quality control? And to me, in my mind, it is, we can all make something pretty good once. It's being able to do it every time.
But scale it out
within
too.
the
I mean, you're
tolerance.
talking about small shop to now a much, what, 450 some odd employees?
500.
Yeah, pushing, 500 employees and being able to still maintain the level of quality throughout all those iterations, years, and growth is something worth celebrating.
If the fret slider has all the frets in the right place and the nuts putting in the right place, that's done by machine. It wasn't like somebody, had a bad night the night before and put the saw in the wrong place. So some of this stuff is controllable. That body shape is exactly the same as this body shape because the jigs are exactly the same. So that would be industrial quality control in a way. But what you're talking about is the hand, how the frets are put in, how they're leveled, what the edge of the frets are like, how the nut was cut.
Yeah, but
are the tuning
I'm
pegs
talking about
straight when you
maintaining
drill
the
hole?
type of quality through the growth and volume that you have to put out for these type of products is very different from when you started.
But it's done in 1,000 places, and you're using it as
Exactly.
one quality control, 2 words, and I'm thinking thousands.
Totally. Well, it's just like the thousands of points. You talk about so many different points that make the guitar what it is in the first place. It's all about the details. So, again, we wish you a happy anniversary.
Thank you. I hope it's going well with you guys.
And very much so.
How did the videos that we did last time go?
I think our goal was hit 50K, and between our couple of videos that we shot, we've exceeded it. So.
Yay. Even with all the stuff that came out?
Well, they edited me out, actually.
Actually, I don't think they did.
Yeah, well, they probably should.
Did you edit him out?
Yeah. Well, but they're going to come out with that. We're all revising things how we do them, We want to get better at what
So
we
I
do.
heard Jim Hubby's going to be here tomorrow.
Yes.
This is what I've heard.
That's
Tonight.
unbelievable. He's here tonight.
He's actually going to jump out of a cake when we get out there for your 40th anniversary. It's going to be awesome.
Your boss is going to jump out of a cake. I don't think so.
Now edit that out.
Okay.
Paul, can I ask you something really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Could you tell me a little bit about the inlays and the history of the birds?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I've
so-
always been curious.
My mother was a bird watcher. And so when we were kids, we would put our head out the window at night and listen to the poor wills and the whippoorwills and listen to all the nightbird songs. And, it was always that stuff. One day, my mother said, "We got a problem." And I went, "What are you talking about?" She said, "You see those 10 birds out there? Those aren't birds. Those are flying rats. Those are scouts. And we got a problem." 4 days later, 2 million starlings showed up in my backyard. She was right, and they ate everything. They fought with everything. They were just nasty rat birds. And like the Birds. You remember the movie The Birds?
Sure.
Hitchcock.
It was like that, literally in my backyard. And she calls it, right? That's the kind of bird watcher my mother was. She goes, "Oh, they're scouts. This is not going to be good." And so when I got a job to build Peter Frampton a guitar, I didn't even think about it. I went down the street and I got some bird guides and designed these birds, and that was the end of that. I was in my backyard on the porch, and this immense bald eagle or golden eagle was in the backyard, all brown.
Sure.
So an immature bald, right? And I looked at my wife and said, "Look at the size of that thing. It's huge." I went, "I'm going to go find out what it is." And I went on the back deck and I started waving my arms and it took off. It was this immense great horned owl.
Whoa. That's awesome.
And they are literally about this
they're
big
big.
around. They don't have the wingspan of a bald eagle's about from my hand to your head. It's a long way. These are shorter wingspan, powerful animals. And when they fly by you, they're dead silent. That's a hawk and a hummingbird and a tern and a hawk and this is a little kite, which is a sparrow, a peregrine falcon, another falcon, and a owl, which everybody says is a flying turtle.
We'd like to give a huge shout out of thanks to our friends at Paul Reed Smith Guitars here in Stevensville, Maryland. We hope you enjoyed the content. And to check out more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. And check us out at AmericanMusical.com.